Good afternoon. This is Clark Neighbors with BIS Commodities in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. This would be the market update for the week ending April 11, 2014. Just a few highlights for this week's markets and also some thoughts as we move forward. First for the week, May corn is down about 4 cents. This is only, I think, the third week since early January that we've had a weekly lower close in the on the corn. Yeast corn down 7 cents. Another thing to keep in mind, the high to the low so far in corn for 2014 is a little over $1. July wheat down 9 cents for the week. May soybeans down 10 cents for the week. It's only the second down week in beans since February, 1st of February. 2014 trading range so far in soybeans is a whopping $2.50. So the market activity first quarter of 2014 has far outlived or outpaced what we saw in the final quarter of 2013. I think a lot of that is attributed to the outside market and the fund activity. Some factors to watch. This week, market was tied in, and it has been for the last few weeks, about Chinese cancellations, Chinese defaults. The storyline this week is Chinese defaults on some soybeans. The question is it 5 vessels? Is it 10 vessels? Is it 30 vessels? That's kind of a moving target. And that seemed to finally put some pressure on this bean market. The outside situation in soybeans has been interesting based on Wednesday. We got a new supply and demand update for the month of April. It shows the tightest stocks to use ratio here in the United States in the last 30 years. But keep in mind, if you take into account the size of the Brazilian and Argentine crop, which a fair amount of that's still coming out of harvest, some say the world supply of soybeans right now is the biggest it's ever been. So we have kind of a double-edged sword here, thus affecting the bean spreads, tight U.S. supply, burdensome world supply. So we've seen huge premiums on the front end of this bean market in the May and the July, and seeing at or near record inversions in soybeans. So we'll see how this plays out, especially with some of this default talk. Just another quick note on the USDA report on Wednesday. The one factor that came out a little positive on corn was corn exports were popped another 125 million bushel. Now keep in mind the corn exports that we see posted by the USDA right now is about almost 500 million bushels bigger than it was going back to harvest. This has had some tremendous influence a little bit on logistics and the direction of how grain's moving, and thus we have the export market and or the river market now relevant source again, which we haven't in quite some time. And some of that is also due to logistical problems and moving product through the West Coast. In fact, there's been a couple processors in the East, bean processors in the East, that have had to shut down off and on here over the last month or so based on unavailability of rail to move the product out. That's also been a talking point in many ethanol plants in the last month and a half. So logistics, especially via rail, has been very difficult between the high demand for the energy product in the northern plains and the Dakotas more specifically, and also the adverse winter weather conditions. Transitioning into weather, that's the other thing that will be talked about as a factor from now till when the crop comes out of the ground. Just getting an early start into field activity. Very little crop planted at this point. We do get our first planting report Monday. Obviously there's a fair amount of cropping in the south. Now keep in mind, before you get excited about late plantings, a year ago there was only 1% of the corn crop in Illinois and 2% of the corn crop in the ground in Iowa at the end of April, which is still 2.5 weeks away. So next week looks a little tough to start with. Some pretty potentially strong storms and rains in parts of the central and eastern Midwest through the weekend, early next week, with even chance of slight snow, and fairly cool next week. Western Corn Belt continues to be somewhat dry, and and that's another scenario to watch as time goes on. But keep in mind, it's a time of year where weather tends to be supportive. As one of the traders in Chicago we talked to calls it the 2-2 forecast. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's too dry, it's too wet. So this is the time of year you have the 2-2 forecast. Corn spreads quickly. The export numbers that came out on Wednesday, I think, reflect a situation that's going to be a little more difficult to widen corn spreads out until we have a better idea what this crop size may be. So from that standpoint, old crop corn, May July corn spread, which a Goldman roll got done today, that 6-cent area looks like a pretty good barrier here short term as far as widening of those spreads, again due to good export numbers. New crop spreads will be determined as time wears on, and we'll see what the size of the crop is. Funds, commemorative traders report, another topic. We should get an update this afternoon. As of the taping of this, we don't have those numbers in front of us, but keep in mind we have as big of a influence in the funds or the managed money in the ags that we've had in quite some time. Some say going back to the drought of 2012. Others say when you add in the livestock, you may be the biggest fund position of all time when you add in the livestock and the grains. Speaking of livestock, cattle market this week up about $2 in the week, actually a new all-time high in the feeder cattle. But many look for this typical seasonal break, the winter spring high to the summer lows to start to take place. In some cases, maybe we've already seen that. A lot will depend on how cash trade breaks out as we go through the summer. Hogs for the week up nearly $2. A lot of volatility in this livestock market right now. I believe on Wednesday of this week the hog market had nearly a $6 trading range for the day. Keep in mind $3 is the limit, so we were almost limit down to limit up that same day. Just a couple other quick notes. PPI out of China shows slower growth. That's a topic that many in the big economic sector will watch, is what kind of growth we see out of China. Stock market did struggle some this week due to dovish or hawkish views by the Fed as we move forward. And other than that, obviously the 2 or 3 things to watch point going forward. One will be, early spring weather. If we continue to see defaults by the Chinese, and keep in mind the next USDA report on May the 9th would also reflect not only the current crop year, but it will be the first injection of numbers by the USDA for the 2014-2015 crop. If you have any questions, give us a call at BIS Commodities. Phone number is 800-373-2525, or check us out on the web at biscommodities.com. With that, have a great weekend.